Let me give you some context so that this story actually makes sense. Very simply, I had a store, it was doing pretty good, consecutive 5-figure profit months, and essentially I thought it was a good idea to bring in a partner who could help scale that store to the next level. And obviously that person needed good experience. So I was in a Facebook group looking for this partner, and I saw this guy making 6 figures a month, or at least he claimed he was making 6 figures a month, and my friend told me that he'd been in that group for quite a while, so he must be legit. So one thing really led to the next, we go into a conversation, and eventually he became my business partner on like a really short time span. And basically our whole deal was that he would work on Facebook ads because I hadn't quite figured that part out, and I would work on influencers because I knew how to do influencer ads. So we partnered up in early March, and I expected him to start running ads that first week, or at least in the first couple weeks. However, cut to the middle of May, he still hasn't run any ads. He's just continuously giving me these words of wisdom and these vague pieces of advice and guidance without actually putting any effort in and helping with the store. And inside of Shopify, you could actually see when a staff account logs into the store. And I could see that this guy wasn't logging into the store for many weeks. So he was basically giving loads and loads of random pieces of vague advice without actually actioning anything. So we're now 2 months into this relationship and he still hasn't done anything. So I go ahead and put more pressure on him to start running some Facebook ads. And I'll show you our text conversations in a second. So finally he starts running some Facebook ads, and obviously I'm expecting him to do really well because he claims to be a Facebook ad guru, and he's also made me wait 2 months for him to actually run some ads. And in that 2-month period, I paid him multiple thousands of dollars in profit sharing. So obviously I would expect him to do a bit better than try to sell a super saturated product using someone else's stolen creative and waste hundreds of dollars in ads trying to do so. Now cut to a few weeks later and thousands of dollars in wasted Facebook ad spend, he's coming up with all sorts of reasons as to why the Facebook ads aren't working. And I know that large screenshot might seem serious, and he's saying stuff like he's depressed, he's losing perspective on life, he's fasting. At some point I realized he's just constantly throwing more rubbish excuses at me. But I'm not an idiot. I can basically see what he's trying to do is stall to the end of the month so that he gets a next month profit sharing payment. And as long as the store is still doing pretty well from all of my hard work, he can kind of get along with doing no work at all and still offer some vague pieces of advice and claim he's actually helping. So I could very quickly tell that he was basically taking advantage of me, and he was getting paid thousands of thousands of profit every single month by doing no work at all. But anyway, up until that point, you can't really say that he scammed me. Sure, he wasn't pulling his weight and doing as much as he could have, but maybe it was just a rocky start and maybe things would get better in some more weeks' time. Nope, no chance. I was wrong, I was completely wrong. Well, here's the good part. Here's where the actual big crisis issue actually happened. So because I was under the impression that this guy was a big Facebook ads guru, that he had all these other stores that are pushing so much volume, which by the way, I never actually verified, I was just taking my friend's word for it, I thought that it would be a good idea to get my product private labeled using his suppliers and his contacts. Because obviously he's been around for much longer than me, he does much more volume than me, so maybe it's a good idea just to use his existing contacts to get my product private labeled because it was doing such good volume, so we could actually think about bulk ordering and private labeling it. And I was thinking that surely he has experience doing this before from all these other stores, so there will probably be less mistakes if I went through him than if I was to manage it myself. And this is the part where I get taken advantage of and pretty much scammed. So he comes back to me with a quote of what he's saying his supplier is telling him it will cost to bulk order this product and get a couple thousand units for it. And I realized that it wasn't a huge discount from what we were actually getting the product from when we dropshipped it. It was only like a few percentage off. But I was thinking that because we're getting it private labeled and because we have some better packaging on it, maybe it does cost that extra bit more, so we're not getting a huge discount. And I didn't do any due diligence to check if the quote that he actually gave me was like within the market or if that's something that's reasonable. I just took his word for it because I still trusted him at this point, and I basically sent him directly the payment upfront for the stock that I was going to buy. So in hindsight, I should have obviously done some more research and saw that the price that he was giving me was actually 50% more than the actual price you could have got for the same product if you were bulk ordering it. But I was naive at the time, I was just trusting him and taking his word for it because I thought we were business partners. So I just sent him the payment upfront for all that stock. But anyway, I wasn't realized that he was playing me at the time, so I just went ahead with it. Anyway, fast forward a couple months, the stock is meant to arrive, it's a couple thousand units, but we had the issue at customs. Basically, there was some paperwork that was meant to be added onto the actual shipment that he didn't add in, or his supplier didn't add in. And he really urgently needed to send it over in the next 48 hours for that shipment to actually be released from the US customs so we could get it to our 3PL. And side note, another huge red flag with this guy is that he never responds to messages. It takes multiple days to respond to even the shortest of messages, and it caused massive delays in the whole business. I'll let you read this, but essentially he doesn't end up sending the paperwork in time, and the shipment gets sent back to China. And looking back at it, loads of this was actually my fault because I trusted him way too much and it ended up costing the business thousands of dollars to get the shipment back to the US. And obviously I was super pissed because this simple mistake that you would expect a 7-figure seasoned Shopify veteran not to make actually cost us thousands of dollars in extra shipping costs, and it lost us a bunch of time and we had loads of delays on our orders. But the worst part is that he took no responsibility for this whatsoever. He kept on dodging the bullet and coming up with all these different excuses like he did with Facebook ads a couple of weeks ago and telling me why this wasn't his fault, it was on the agent, etc, etc. So anyway, I'm just fed up with him, I'm fed up with dealing with him, so I asked him for the supplier's contact, which stupidly I hadn't asked for already, and I tried to figure stuff out with her directly and just get this whole mess sorted so we can get the stock and start selling again. And again, this whole time this guy is just speaking loads of words but not actually doing anything. But anyway, eventually I get it sorted with the supplier, we get the stock shipped back to the US, back to our 3PL in the US, and we spend like loads more money getting the shipping actually arranged again. And then that's when everything goes wrong again. So our 3PL receives the product, the package, and they found out that only 1,000 units are inside of the package, and we had ordered for like 3,000 something. And my first impression is that the supplier has messed up big time because we paid them, or I at least paid my business partner for 3,000 and something units, so why have they only sent us 1,000? So I go ahead and talk to them, and it also turns out that the product itself was slightly different to what they had promised, because what I agreed with my business partner was this really nice packaging and all this fancy stuff, and what they sent us was like some really cheap, low quality product. So then I speak with the supplier, and after a few chats and screenshots later, I realize that there is no mistake. She's only been paid for 1,000 units, and my business partner has absolutely screwed me over here. Obviously now I'm absolutely pissed, I go crazy and start spamming him on Skype, and he just isn't responding to me at all. And for weeks on weeks this guy just wasn't responding at all, and I was 15 at the time, and I realized I had just lost $25,000 to this guy that I didn't even know what he looked like. I'd never actually seen his face before, and I was absolutely pissed. I was so mad that this actually happened. And I also realized at this time that this guy was using fake company names and even fake real names like John, which is like the worst fake English name you could pick. Just to kind of get away with supplies and random stuff like that. Obviously, it's really stupid on my part for not actually seeing the face of the person I was going into business with. It's probably one of the biggest red flags because he saw my face every time we did a Zoom call or whatever. I was always showing my face, but I never actually saw his face. I heard his voice, but I never saw his face. So that's another stupid thing that I didn't catch on to for some reason. And finally, after weeks and weeks of trying to get in touch with this guy, he finally responds, and I'll just let you guys read this conversation so you can see what happened, and then I'll summarize. So basically what he's saying is that after months of disappearing and not responding at all, he wants to be paid for the last 2 months of profits, like his share of the profits, in order to send us the remaining stock that I've already paid him upfront for. So I'm not sure if that's blackmailing or some sort of hostage situation of my stock, but he's like demanding to get paid before he releases our stock that I've already paid for. Obviously, I'm not an idiot, I don't fall for it, well, at least this time. He just gets away with the money. I know he hasn't bought the stock, so he just got the cash, and there's not much I can do really. And that's basically it, that's the whole story, that's what happened. But what are the main lessons that I actually learned from this experience? Maybe you've heard of this quote before. When a man with money meets a man with experience, the man with money leaves with the experience, and the man with experience leaves with the money. Just think about that quote for 1 minute. And that's basically what happened here. I was the one doing all the work, driving all the revenue, running all the ads that were actually profitable, yet he was the one taking 50% of the money and even more at the end. But somehow this guy convinced young and experienced and stupid me that he was somehow in charge, he was experienced, he knew what he was talking about, and he was just somehow managing everything from above without actually doing any work and getting his hands dirty, which was all just complete nonsense. Now this next part is actually a bit deep, so you might need to stop for a minute and just process it so you actually understand what I'm saying. Because even subconsciously, I had the mindset that I'm just a kid, he's older than me, he's done more rev than me, so surely he knows what he's talking about and I can trust him. But basically what was happening is I let him exploit me, simply put. And as much as I might want to complain and say that he's the one that exploited me, he's the one that tricked me, he's the one that scammed me, it's actually as big as my fault because I let him exploit me. Now think about that for a second. Because of even my subconscious small thinking and my mentality at the time, I became a puppet to someone who wasn't necessarily much greater or much smarter than me, in the hopes that he would fulfill his side of the deal, which is running Facebook ads.